You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Today we have a wonderful guest, James Madison, CEO as in Chief Energy Officer, speaker, trainer, and coach at OnPurpose Life. He ignites leaders in the escape of the straitjackets they put on in exchange for success. He inspires them to ditch burnout and overwhelm to lead overwhelming teams and extraordinary results. Welcome, James.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Okay, so we were talking about this a second ago in the green room, as they say. You talk a lot about in purpose, on purpose. Now, we hear a lot about that, living on purpose and in purpose, and it's a catchword at the moment. However, I know you're really good at this, and I would love to have you actually break down for people how to live in purpose and on purpose.
Yeah, if I think about it, when you ask me that question, in purpose, on purpose is another way to get to a person's identity. Ultimately, what I help people do is get to their true identity, who they actually are, right? And purpose is one expression of that. So it starts, number one, with understanding who they are. What are their gifts and their talents and their passions and strengths, and really not what they're good at, but actually who they are. And I help them really get grounded in that. Then second step is to understand their purpose, to help people achieve all that they can be, like whatever that statement is why they're on the planet, that they get really grounded and clear on that. And then the third step beyond that is to then create possibilities, which is the vision. What do you want to do with that? Like once you understand who you are, why you're here, what do you envision creating for your life? It becomes this big thing. So those kind of the steps of kind of walking them through that.
Okay, so I'm going to play the devil's advocate a little bit here. People are very confused about who they really are. And there's many different ideas of who we really are. And I think people confuse, as you said, who they are with what they're doing. And I think that people are doing things for so long, it's hard for them to distinguish whether that's who they are or whether they just think that's who they are because of habit and everyday, whatever. So how do people distinguish who they really are and figure that out when there is confusion about that? Would you agree there's confusion about that, right?
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And the first step, and here's the divider for me, it's when you do something that you do well, does it energize you or does it drain you? That's the first clue. Does it give you energy or does it drain you? Because many times, even myself, there's things I'm really good at that just drain me, right? So that means I've learned to be good at it, but it isn't naturally aligned with my natural gifting. So that's the first clue.
Okay. So you're saying that, well, hang on, who we really are, it's still what we're doing, right? So it's still about doing, it's still about tasks. So is that who we really are, is what we are doing makes us who we are?
No.
Oh.
It's how we feel when we're doing.
Okay.
Do I feel energized or do I feel drained when doing that thing?
Okay, so who we really are is drained doing something we don't like. So who we really are is linked to activity because we do an activity, we feel drained. So that's interesting. So it still is linked to doing something and how we feel about that.
It's how we feel, because we could be really good at something that drains us. It doesn't mean we're bad at it. It could be something we've learned to get good at. But if we're drained afterwards, really drained, there's an indication that that's not aligned to who we are. That doing is not aligned to our being.
Okay, so we're still one step away, though. You get where I'm going with this? Because, okay, so let's say you do coaching, okay? And you love it, okay? So you're energized, okay? So is who you really are a coach?
No. No. Who I really am is a person that believes in deep connection and relationship and helping people achieve the best that they can be and solving problems to unlock the limits and take the lids off things. That's who I am. It comes out as a coach. That's one way. Also as a father and a husband and a leader in my church. It comes out many different ways. But at the core of that is me being this person that likes to help people achieve all that they can be and take the limits off. I like to set people free from limitations. That's at the core of me.
You and I are very similar. It's a sort of reverse engineering. It's like, hey, I don't feel that's not me, but Okay, so it's reverse engineering. Coaching is something that you feel great, energized. Leading church, you feel energized. Father, you feel energized. From there, we're working out, so all the roads are leading to Rome, that I'm somebody who likes serving in this way, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
If I was, there's a model that I use, right? This got 4 quadrants. And on the left or the right side would be the quadrant that's around relationship and problem solving, right? And if I was to tell you out of 100% of me, 94% of me sits on that side. On the other side, details and make it happen fast, which is a small part of me. And what I learned through my career is most of what was required was on that practical, cognitive side that I got really good at, but I was always exhausted and drained. When I was working with teams and people and helping coach and lead my teams or facilitating groups, that's when I felt energized and it didn't feel like work.
Okay, so I know for sure that I'm not meant to be an accountant.
Right.
Because when I have to do any bit of accounting work or even help my accountant, I'm like, this is so draining. And I was just thinking before we got in here, I thought, how can I do absolutely nothing for my accounting? Unfortunately, there is some reporting and some, I was thinking,
Yes.
I just want it all to be done and not even, I'm getting there maybe at some point. Definitely not meant to be an accountant. Okay. All right.
That's
now,
right.
The other thing that you were talking about was purpose. Now, what I do know, when I started working more avidly on my purpose 2 years ago, because I got to that point and I thought, okay, Maslow's hierarchy, now I'm more into purpose, the further up you go. And it's so funny. Now it's so clear to me that what I thought was purpose were actually goals. And my coach at the time, that was a purpose coach, he said, do you realize that that's not purpose? And I didn't see it at first. He goes, you'll see it in a minute. You'll see it. And it's true. I still didn't know what true deep purpose. It was more goals, projections, projects. And of course, those are part of a purpose, right? So how do you get people to know what deep purpose is as opposed to goals? Because I know this is another common theme here.
That's right. And you're absolutely right. And here's the distinction. Those things you talked about are what you do. Purpose is why you do it.
Right.
That doesn't change when you really get to that. That's the golden thread of all the whats that we choose to do. And everybody's really good at telling you what they do. I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this. Here's the things I'm accomplishing. But very few people really understand why they do what they do. Like what is the core in them that connects to that? That's the key to really understanding and making every choice from that place of purpose, regardless of what those goals and different things change on the outside. It's really understanding from the inside.
Right. And you know what I found, and this is after I came up with this, it was corroborated by other leaders and people that I know, that we know our purpose when we are emotionally connected to it on an emotional deep level. Like, for instance, my purpose is to help other people to thrive. Okay. I'm emotionally connected because I've been through a lot of hashtag unthriving, right? And when I think about it, I just got goosebumps. I'm like, wow. And I figured that out. I thought that's it. That is it. That's 100%. I have other purposes. You can have more than one, but that's like in the outer world purpose, because I have purposes with my different. Of course, I want them to thrive as well. But I found that when you are emotionally connected, then there is no error. Is that what you've found as well?
Sure. Absolutely. When I work with people and they actually have that click moment where they see themselves in the words they're speaking, their purpose, they get very tears, chills, smiles. Like it is they feel it in their body because they can now see for the first time. They've actually been living their purpose their entire life. They just couldn't articulate it.
Or they might not be completely living it.
Not completely, but they've been living it to a certain degree.
Yes.
But they just couldn't articulate and see that they were living it. And once they can see it, literally, I've seen people start crying.
Yeah.
When they could see themselves. That emotional part you talked about, that's when they know it's real because it clicks.
You know what's interesting? I was already doing it. And then I realized, no wonder I like this so much. Because then I realized, and then, of course, I'm going to expand it. But I thought, no wonder this was such a sweet spot for me, helping people to make money and thrive. I hadn't put together, I was just doing it. And it's like, oh, I really love this. This is like really amazing. And then when I thought, oh, that's my purpose, but on a larger level. Okay. So you're helping them. And I'm guessing that must be an emotional moment when they're like, I've been doing some of this to some extent. Now I'm going to go all in. Right. And then at that point,
Yes.
do you help them plot like a strategy to then enlarge their purpose and vision?
Yeah. Once they get really clear on it,
Yeah.
they get more bold and courageous in taking action towards it because it's
Mm,
not an accident. It's
yes.
not a coincidence. And so then we go into like visioning.
Mm,
What's now possible now that
mhm,
you understand
mhm,
this deep, deep, deep purpose inside you? What are the things you dream of?
mm,
What are the what's that you'd like to create in your world? And yeah, we go into visioning to
mm.
really figure out, like I call it a true north. It becomes a
Yeah,
compass for making this. And here's the most important part, it becomes a filter for the things that don't align with that purpose.
right,
Too often, me included, say yes to a lot of good things and not leave room for the great things.
right.
And so it becomes a filter to say, no, that doesn't, I could do that, but that doesn't really align with my deepest purpose.
And sometimes maybe on a business level, you might be doing certain things because it's business, and
Of course.
not everything we do in business is fun. And we have to, as I
Right.
said, we have to do certain things that aren't our favorite things to do, right?
Hmm.
But we're
That's right.
very aware of that. Now, did it ever happen to you? Because I think at one point I felt like the I am a, right? I
Yes.
started questioning the I am. Okay, I'm a mom. Okay, yes, I'm a this. At one point, I had to change that because I used to be an actress. Okay. And
Hmm.
I had to completely stop saying that. I thought, oh, I'm no longer an actress. That was a
Hmm.
large part of who I was at the time. Of course, it's just what I was doing, right? But I feel like people get very attached to
Yes.
especially something like that. So there was a point where I had to go through and say, okay, that's no longer true about me, right? So who am I then? Oh, I'm still a person that's I've always been helpful, and I used to coach actors and help people, but the line, no matter what I did, is I did like helping people to thrive some
Yes.
way. So what do you say to people that have been doing something for a long time that's become part of their identity and they become kind of attached to it? Okay. How do they
Yeah, that's a big challenge
yeah.
when the identity is an occupation and that occupation can change, many times people lose their identity.
Mm,
But when they can ground that I am an encourager,
mm,
I am a connector,
mm,
I am a helper, I'm a listener, then it doesn't matter what the occupation title is. Those things are transferable to everything. And that's the deeper level for people to really get grounded in. And they can apply it in any type of a role.
mm. Then it doesn't change. Then there's no crisis when they change roles or do something because people do get very attached to what they do. It's so much so, I think when they leave jobs that they've had for a long time, they are lost. They're like,
That's right.
oh, I saw myself as, a doctor. I mean, doctors are real identity. They study for
Yes.
100 years. They're in deep debt. It's a very intense, hard thing to do. And I have a lot of respect for doctors because that is nurses as well. That is a lot of studying and it's a whole thing. And I think a lot of doctors struggle when they decide they don't want to be doctors anymore. It's like, what am I? Right? So I think
Yes.
it's really important that they're still maybe a healer in some way or you know,
They're a healer.
something like that.
Yeah, they're a problem solver.
Right.
They're a person that helps connect, or I mean, and those are the things that are transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, servant leader. Okay, so what are some other things people can do? Like, let's say somebody's like, gee, I'm not clear what is my purpose? Who
Yes.
am I? What can they do to start really, like, steps to start figuring out their purpose?
Yeah. One of the things that I learned is that our purpose is not in the future; it's in our past. Right.
Mm,
And so three simple steps to really kind of start to uncover what that looks like. Number one, identify passions.
mm,
What are all the things in life that a person is passionate about?
mhm,
And some people mistakenly say follow your passion.
mm,
The passion is the fuel.
mhm,
Passion isn't the why, it's the fuel. It's the thing that lights you up and excites you. And so to make a list of, I like to help people, I like to serve, I like to travel, like really just literally taking self inventory of everything that they're passionate about, just
mhm,
to recognize what that is.
mm,
That's the first step.
mhm. Okay, what's the second step?
Second step is what I call gifting.
Mm,
What are the things that you are really good at? Are your superpowers? Others expect you to do because you're good at it. You enjoy doing it. And these are gifts that aren't for you, that
mhm,
they're to be in service to the world. It's
mm,
the things you've been given to steward and bring to the world. And that's the hardest part for most people
mhm,
because they feel like they're bragging.
mm,
Oh, I'm bragging. And I always say, it's not about you.
mm.
That gift is to flow through you out to the world to be in service to others.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what it is, how can you bring it at
Right.
100% if you don't know what you're good at and what your gifting is? And that's where the aha goes, oh, I'm good at this and I'm an organizer. And people then get excited to really articulate the things they're good at. And I say, it's not bragging if you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've done those things and received feedback
Mm-hmm.
that you're really good,
Mm-hmm.
you're not bragging. You're just making an observation and understanding who you are.
Okay, now what about the other problem? What about if you're good at a lot of things? So this was my problem, believe it or not. I was good at a lot of things. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
are like, "But you're so good at that." So it was like, okay, but I can't. I mean, and I was an actress for many years. I was a filmmaker. I was good at that. I was good at that. I was an executive recruiter on Wall Street. I was a natural at that. I can sort of paint. I have a degree in design, and I'm really
Mm-hmm.
great at coaching. And I used to study classical singing, and so there's all this stuff. So what
Yeah.
about people that are good at a lot of things? How do you can't do everything in life, right?
No, you go to one deeper level than what you said. So, in what you just said, I heard creativity,
Mm-hmm.
I heard adaptability,
Mm-hmm.
I heard relationship, I heard connection. Like you go to that level of the things that are at the root of who you are, not what you chose to do with them, but like what's at the root.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good listener, organizer, communicator, really synthesize it down to those key elements to
Mm.
really understand the true gifting more so than the what I do with it.
Mm. Okay, so why? My question is why, again, devil's advocate, why is it so important to figure out our purpose and move forward? What will happen
Mm,
if people don't figure out their purpose? Let's go there. Because it's all
yeah.
about, hey, do all this stuff now. There's so much coaching around, be a this. I think it's interesting to look at what will happen if you don't do this. Let's look at that.
Yeah. If you don't understand your purpose, then you'll continue to make the same type of decisions from what I would call not the fully true identity,
Hmm.
right? The things I'm good at, the jobs and the titles versus who I am.
Hmm.
And then the same patterns in the future will be created from the past,
Mm.
which results in the stress and worry and anxiety and overwhelm that we see a lot in the world.
Hmm.
On the other side of that, with that clarity comes joy and fulfillment, significance, legacy.
Mm.
Instead of accomplishment virtues, it becomes those obituary virtues of
Mm.
legacy. What am I leaving
Mm.
that I really care about
Mm.
versus what did I do just to achieve in the first part of my life? And that
Right.
that joy is what I experience and people that I talk to experience when they get really clear on their purpose.
Right, having purpose gets you out of bed in the morning because, merely making money, there's of course, we all love the game of making money. I love it. I love numbers, I love wealth, I love all that. However, after the first million, if you don't have a real
Yeah.
purpose, you can't continue. It's not you made the million, you really need a purpose after you make your first million to
Yes.
continue. I
That's right.
found that, and luckily I had a purpose, so I just kept going. I thought, "Okay, I'm good." I heard somebody say that, and I thought, "Oh, that's why I kept getting up in the morning and kept being really, motivated to help people," and I think that you can't fake that. I can see you're very
No.
motivated as well. So, tell me, what got you into all this? What was your story? What were you doing before? What lit you up to do this?
Yeah, let me go back one step before I tell you that. When you understand your purpose, you don't lose your way, like you said.
Mm,
And it answers the question, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do that would be in service to the world? Like it
mm,
gets to that core level of
mhm,
why do I get up every day?
mm,
But for me, I spent about 4 years in the military after college. Then I spent 25 years in the corporate world, consumer products, leading teams, people, goals, continuous improvement,
mm,
loved all those kinds of things. And after 25 years, I pivoted out of that
mhm,
and decided I wanted to do something different. I wasn't really sure what it was.
mhm,
And I found that being an executive recruiter was something I really enjoyed working with them my
mhm,
whole career because of the matching people and
mhm,
connection and relationships, some of the things that I'm really good at. I learned through a book called "What Color Is Your Parachute,"
yes,
and I kind of did this assessment, right?
mhm.
And I decided I want to be an executive recruiter. Went to my Saturday morning Zumba class 3 days later, and I met a lady who was an executive recruiter. Never seen her before in this class.
Yeah.
And 7 days later, I went to work with her.
Wow, wow. I loved executive recruiting, it was fun. Okay, so you got that,
Yeah.
and then from there, you pivoted into coaching people.
I pitched because basically when I got into recruiting, no one taught me how to do sales. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to call on companies and find clients. I knew how to talk to people.
Yeah, me too.
So when people would call me looking for a job, I would just coach them because that was natural for me to do, which then kind of led into full-time. Let me just get into coaching.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So James, what is one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with? What is one mindset or philosophy? If somebody just bumped into you and you were never going to see that person again and you wanted to just say, hey, I have one thing I want to tell you, what would that be?
Yeah, that one thing would be that wherever they are, if they're not satisfied, there's hope that they can move from that to something they want to create. It's not done. And whatever they've done to create all they've done has brought them so far, right? But to get to where they want to really go, there's got to be a change in terms of them understanding the decisions they make going forward based on who they are, their identity, more so than what they're good at.
Okay, great. That's food for thought. Well, James, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for turning up. We will have James in the show notes, but James, you can just say your website here in case somebody's not.
Yes, my website is onpurpose-life.com.
Great. Awesome. James, thanks again. And thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe, share, give us great reviews, and tell everybody about it. And we will see you on the next episode. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.